Welcome, my friends, to another YouTube version of the BJJ Break podcast. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel. So here we go.
Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. This is episode 154 of the BJJ Brick podcast. My name is Byron. I'm here with Gary, and today we have an episode. We're talking about scrambling. Gary, how you doing?
Man, I am so excited for this Eggs Benedict over easy special here.
No, we're going to scramble them. It's not over easy. Not always break the yoke anyway, so might as well go ahead and scramble these things, Gary.
Yep, you know what I always say, the BJJ Break podcast. Yokes and chokes. What a good time.
Yep, or chokes and jokes. Either way, it works out great, Gary. So excited. This is a little bit new for us. We did this last month as well. Last episode of the month, we did a topic episode. How to like tips about bringing your friend to class and how that make they go successful. Today, another topic, scrambling. So we'll get to that.
Every now and then, we like to try to come out of our shell.
Yeah.
And do something a little different.
Gotta change it up. Gotta keep everybody on their toes, Gary. It's good to be on your toes, especially if there's gonna be a scramble. If you're on your toes, you get a little jump start. Yeah,
you got that right.
But excited for this. We'll have some stuff to say to hopefully help you out when the game gets to the scramble part of it. Maybe you'll do a little bit better than last time.
Okay. Speaking of trying to help people out, check out the audiobook. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. It's your first year in BJJ. It's only $11.99, 2.5 hours of content. And basically it's going to take you through all the stuff you're going to encounter in your first year from, trying to find a perfect school, which is so important. If you find a school that doesn't necessarily fit into your lifestyle, your hours, near you, or you just don't click with, let's say the type of instruction or the coach, it's probably not going to be a good fit, and there's a good chance you might not stick with it. So, one of the very important chapters in this audiobook is, how to pick the right school. So definitely check it out. It's got great reviews. It's called Your First Year in BJJ, and only $11.99. And all the money from this audiobook goes to support the show. So thank you.
Yep, there we go. Every week we're making a show, and if you want it delivered to you in your email box, all the show notes and everything, the best way to do that is to get on the email list. You can either go to our website, bjjbrick.com, or to our Facebook page. Enter your name and email address. Every week we'll send you a link to the download of the podcast and all the show notes right there for you to enjoy and to check out. So if you enjoyed last week with Nikki Ryan, and you want to go follow my Instagram, the link's right there in your inbox. So it could be nice and easy for you.
Nice and easy, just like scrambling your eggs. So definitely check it out.
Speaking of nice, Gary, our Patreon supporters are very nice to us. We have Alexander, Greggy, Sean, and Rob. They've been supporting the show. Outstanding. We definitely appreciate their support on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, to help us keep on doing what we're doing, check out the video that will be in the show notes, either in your inbox or on the website, and learn more about our Patreon program that we have going on.
Yep, definitely a shout out to our 4 musketeers of Patreon. So thank you guys for your support.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to have Jeremy on here to share a quick message about somebody who's been on the show and needs a little bit of help. Jeremy, welcome to the BJJ Brick podcast.
Hey, Byron, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Doing good, and he's a training partner, so definitely know Jeremy quite well, and I'm happy to have him on the show. And Jeremy has done, it seems like when somebody is in need of help, Jeremy is some person locally who seems to always step up. So definitely notice that about you and admire that in who you are, Jeremy.
Thanks. It's just something that can be done, for me at least, having the means to be able to help somebody and just being able to pull together within the BJJ community and make that stuff happen. It's just as simple as asking. And everybody just jumps on 100% when asked. Since I've been with the gym, we've done a bunch of things, and we usually get just about 100% participation from everybody there. So it was really easy to decide to do this one.
Yep. So, Jeremy, tell me what's going on. What are we're doing a fundraiser. What's going on, man?
So the fundraiser is to help Alan Shebaro's father out. Recently, Alan had posted to social media that his father was diagnosed with ATS, which is a severe form of thyroid cancer. He said that it was very aggressive and that it required, specialized treatment, of which there's only 2 places that deal with this specific cancer. Alan and his family, did everything that they could to, get his dad there and get him into treatment. But as anybody that's familiar with cancer knows, the cost is tremendous to treat it. Even more so once you start digging into specialized treatment for very rare forms of cancer. And Alan had posted that his father was taking a medication regimen that was expensive, and then he gave the example of one specific medication per day is costing $8,000. Looking at that and into his post as well, it was just struck me as something that we could help with. I personally have, had a lot of family issues with cancer, so I'm very familiar with the costs of it and the burden that puts on the family members, because they want to do everything that they can to, give their loved ones that fighting chance. And unfortunately, it costs a lot of money. So I spoke with Jake Fox, the head instructor at the gym, and he agreed with me and said that we could definitely do something to help Alan out, and to help generate some money to help his father get that chance that anybody would be willing to do for their family.
So what's the plan? What are we doing here?
So the plan that I came up with was essentially a online version of a Chinese auction. I spoke with Jake. Jake and Kim are actually donating the prize money for the Gi of the Winner's Choice. That was the planned big prize, but as I've continued to get donations, from people, it's just one of what is turning out to be many big prizes. From there, with the Chinese auction, we're doing it online, so we can open it up to everybody outside of the Wichita, Kansas area, and give everybody a chance to, donate to a good cause, but also get something back in return, which, who doesn't like winning things? So what we'll be doing is I've set up a Crowdrise site. It's crowdfunding source, a website that allows donations to be made there. We're asking for a $10 donation. That $10 donation will automatically enter you into the prize for the gi of your choice. And then it will also get you a entry into a item of your choice. So I also set like kickers at $50 donations and $100 donations. So if you donate $50 at once, you'll get, I believe, two or three extra entries. So then you would essentially be at 5 entries plus the extras to pick out to choose from what is available to be raffled. So, and then with the $100 one, I believe we set it at 5 extra, so that would be 15. And then once I get all of the items or the details as far as like sizing goes received, I'll take pictures or post pictures and put them onto the Facebook group page, and that'll essentially work as like the can or the basket that would be at the Chinese auction. Once I close the raffle, I'll take the names of the people that cast their vote or entry into those items and plug them into a random generator, and we'll get the winner that way.
It sounds good. So basically, it's a raffle for it seems like a growing list of items. You could participate for as little as $10. If you wanted to do 50, you actually get like $70 worth of like a ticket almost, and $100 is almost like $150 worth of entries, and all the money's going to go help out Alan Shebaro's father with the medical bills and that sort of thing. And one of the good people who is contributing to this is going to walk away with a pretty amazing set of prizes.
The list of the donators has just gotten huge, actually overwhelming. I really wasn't anticipating so many people to donate what they have donated to this date, and I'm surprised that I'm even getting messages through Facebook and my email about people that have things that they want to donate towards the raffle that I've never even met or knew of prior to them reaching out to me. So, the list keeps growing. For example, like right now, there's a total of 3 gis that are available to be won. There's an artist that works with Elder Heart in Mission 22 that's donated 2 of his prints, which, they're amazing. I own one of his. They're great. The Elder Heart / Mission 22 Foundation has also donated 2 tomahawks that are made through a art therapy program that works with veterans and LEO and other civil service entities. There are people at Valor Fitness, a gym in the Wichita area that also trains jiu-jitsu and a lot more, has donated a month of training for free. Fox Fitness is also doing the same thing. Roll Junkie has donated a $100 gift certificate to their website. One of our training partners at Fox Fitness has donated $100 worth of gift cards to Payway, which is a American Asian restaurant in the area. I believe it's more outside of the area too, but I'm not 100% sure. The owner of AGF, one of the up-and-coming bigger names in jiu-jitsu tournaments, donated 4 entries of the winner's choice for his tournaments. And then we've gotten clothing donations. I don't know what it is or the sizes yet, but Lanky Fight Gear, New Defions has donated clothing. Loyal Brand Jiu-Jitsu and Day by Day Jiu-Jitsu have also donated items. I'm just waiting to see what they're sending.
Wow. So there's this list. So where would somebody go to see this list?
So right now, if you go onto Facebook, you can go to the search option there, and if you type in Midwest charity fundraiser for Alan Shebaro, it should bring you to a group page. That's where I've put all of the posts about what's going on. I'm trying to keep everybody updated through there. it's an open group, so you can join it. Once you've joined the group, then you're also free to add as many people as you want. So that's where that's at. That also contains a link to the Crowdrise site where you can make your donations. And I believe it also contains a link for the charity open mat that we'll be doing at Fox Fitness on October 2nd. So I try to keep everything all contained in there.
That sounds good. And if I will put a link to that in the show notes for everybody to find. But yeah, it should be easy. Just search on Facebook, Midwest Charity Fundraiser. Shebaro should pop right up, or Alan Shebaro's father, or something like that. And it seems like the list is growing, but it's already a big list of things. Basically, anybody in the U.S. is eligible to play. So obviously, some of these prizes are kind of a local thing, but the majority of them are things that could be shipped to your house anywhere in the U.S. Is that correct?
Absolutely. A lot of the stuff will definitely be able to be shipped. We're making it open for everybody, so we don't need to. You don't have to worry about not being present to pick it up. If you win, I will make sure that whatever you win gets to you.
Yep, and I, knowing Jeremy, he will. He's a man of his word, and he will deliver. So definitely a great cause. Bad things happen all the time, and this is a situation where we're able to step in and try to help out with some of the cost of some bad things, and in a way that's kind of exciting, and one of us will win something. So definitely check it out. Pitch in 10 to however much you feel like donating or trying to win this raffle, it's all going to a great cause. So, Jeremy, I thank you very much for being on here. Anything else that we forgot to mention?
No, I think we got it all. I mean, if people have questions later on, I mean, they can always message me through the page or through Facebook, or if they're local, they can just ask me in general.
All right. Well, thanks for being on here. Thanks for doing this, and you're always one to step up and help people out when they need a little bit of help, and I appreciate that about you. And we'll keep an eye on this, and be interested to see who wins. It'd be nice if one of our listeners could win. So that can't happen unless you get out there and get in the drawing. So thank you, Jeremy, for jumping on here with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for giving us a platform to share the event with everybody else.
Byron, we have a kind of a crazy quote this week, or an artistic quote, or a chaos quote, or whatever you want to call it. Our quote this week is from a guy by the name of Stephen Soundheim. I guess that's how you say his name. And Byron, could you educate me on who Stephen Soundheim is?
He's a guy that talked about probably either art or chaos. I don't know. I could Google him while you read the quote if you want me to, Gary.
No, I just didn't know if you knew who he was.
Oh, yeah, but I'll just make you wait a little bit as I Google this thing.
Okay. So the quote from Stephen Soundheim, art in itself is an attempt to bring order out of chaos. Once again, art in itself is an attempt to bring order out of chaos. And, this is a perfect quote, for today's, episode where we talk about scrambling, which is a bunch of chaos. And basically, you think about art, which we call jiu-jitsu. But, when you first start jiu-jitsu, it's really chaos. Think about it. You learn your first day you show up and you really have no clue what you're doing. It could be your first time ever training in the kind of combat art. You have no clue these positions. You have no clue where to go from these positions. We as human beings, it's not being on our back or trying to get up from the ground. This is stuff that, we grew up learning. It's not like we got in a fight every day and somebody threw us on the ground and we had to get up. So, all these movements are new, or we don't have muscle memory of where to go. So, you start out and it's, you put a couple new people together and it's just complete chaos. Everybody going different directions, nobody following the set path. It's just, it's kind of crazy. But as you start training, you learn the different positions. You learn how to transition from one position to another. You learn how to become more efficient, more effective while you're on the mat. And, pretty soon it's an art form. And that's what I like about jiu-jitsu is we can all express ourselves in a different way. Some people may have more of a grinding style, grind it out, rip the arm off, take the head off. Some people have, it's true though, you know what I mean? Some people are just more grinders and, a little rougher, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way. And some people flow a little bit more. They're a little lighter. They're flowing from position to position. And, it's kind of neat how we can all show we each have a unique art form in the way we do jiu-jitsu.
Gary, can you think of the first time, maybe the first week or month that you were doing jiu-jitsu? Did it feel like a martial art or did it feel like chaos?
It felt like chaos.
And so as you learned it and understood it, even these basic positions, which were chaotic to you, became something that became artistic or even scientific, and you got to understand it better. And that's what jiu-jitsu is bringing to the ground game, to how to choke somebody, how to control somebody on the ground. It's taking a potentially chaotic situation and making it understandable, making it an art, making it a science. It's bringing reason and a way to teach this to other people as well. So I like the quote is, and also same thing with the scrambles. Scrambles may seem like total chaos to you. Well, you probably lose in that scramble if it does. But the chance that the other guy has a clue what he's doing, or maybe he's got your leg and he's done that a bunch of times, or what I mean? Like there are types of scrambles, and if he's familiar with what type of scramble this is, maybe it's a common place to scramble from for him. Maybe he always goes to turtle and he always is able to scramble, and sometimes he's able to get top from there. So I think this is kind of a fun quote because a lot of time the scrambles do seem chaotic, but still you're doing things that, maybe you're sprawling to try to get control the situation. Maybe you're forced to pull guard from the scramble and you rather had not done that. But we'll get into that later. I just think it's a cool quote, and it's related to the topic of the day. And hey, the guy who said it, Stephen Soundheim, was actually he's in musical theater. He was born 1930, and he's 86 years old, still alive today. And I don't know if he's still working or not, but there we go. I did a little bit of research on the guy.
What I thought was going to be terrible if that guy was actually a black belt, somebody I had no clue who he was, and here I am like, who is this guy, Byron? And if you would have came back and said that, I'd been like, oh, man, foot and mouth syndrome.
Well, that's when we edit the podcast and we make ourselves look a little bit smarter than we actually are.
Yep. Speaking of foot and mouth syndrome, I think we should get on to our article of the week about scrambles, because sometimes during a scramble, you may take a foot to the mouth.
Well, actually, our article of the week is not that. That's the topic of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually need to go. See, I'm getting a little too far ahead of ourselves. I'm way ahead in this scramble. We need to get to our
that's good for you,
article
Gary.
of the week.
Our article of the week, again, we used to never use our own articles. We do have articles on our page, but sometimes we want to talk about them. And this is on bjjbrick.com, something you need to know about the BJJ Gauntlet. And I wrote this on August 24th, and I did some research on the Gauntlet, on different types of hazing. Is this hazing? And I was kind of surprised by what I found. We've had Tim Sled on the podcast, and he mentioned it and was talking about it with us. And I just kind of wanted to, with my research about jiu-jitsu in this, there was nothing quite like this out there. And I thought that it would be good to put out there just so people know about it. If you're not familiar with the BJJ Gauntlet, there's multiple things that happen, but the most typical one, Gary, would you agree, would be you take off your gi and your teammates will line up with their belts, and you'll either run or walk past them, and they'll whip you, maybe on the back, maybe either one, back or front, as you walk by. And that's running the gauntlet or walking the gauntlet or whatever. Is that kind of what you've
yeah, that's when I think of the BJJ Gauntlet, that's kind of what I think of right there. When you progress belts, normally is about when that happens.
Yep, I've seen it for other reasons. It could be birthdays is a big one. Belt. It could it could be a few other reasons, but those are probably 95% of the time there's a gauntlet is congratulations for your belt, and now you get to do the gauntlet, which you may or may not be comfortable doing, but it's hard to turn that down if you're now a blue belt and you've got 5 other buddies who are now blue belts today, and they're all going to do it, and looking at the blue belts, they did it too, and time to walk the gauntlet. Granted, you're not going to probably, you'll be okay in the long run, but it's kind of a thing that it's a little bit of a sensitive topic, I think, because some people really like it. Some people are really proud of that culture.
Some people are really passionate about it.
And I can understand that because it would be a bonding experience. I did it. I want them to do it. Some people also do this very hard. I mean, they really try to leave a mark on that person, and some people don't. But that I don't know if that's walking the line. You're going to get both, and it doesn't really matter because not everybody's going to go soft. Hopefully, not everybody's going to go super hard on you. But actually, doing some research, this is a form of hazing, and hazing has actually some laws that go with it. It seems like most of the hazing laws are in place due to colleges that have fraternities or sororities, and in the past maybe have gotten, maybe in the future, I don't know, present, but have got a little bit too into their hazing process. I don't know if that's the right word. Hey, hazing could be, I'm not going to talk to him for the first 2 days, something like that. Or hazing could be make him drink until he passes out. We'll take him to the hospital. That type of a thing.
Or let him have relationships with the sheep. That too.
Not as familiar with that one, but Gary, we all go to different colleges, Gary. But they're different forms. This technically, so the hazing laws, I think, are in place mostly because of college programs, but they're also regarding clubs and social gatherings. And
you see them in sports too, not just jiu-jitsu, but you see them with football teams. Here in Kansas, we had one with a local swim team had some issues. So you do see it with a lot of sports clubs. Kind of the rite of passage, as they would say.
Yeah, and so some laws have been passed, and they're actually pretty harsh laws. If a person is actually being physically harmed, which a belt that leaves a mark would definitely be a physical harm, it could be considered a felony in a lot of states. And I can't imagine that the schools that are doing this realize that. Here you have a school, a program you're proud of, and you're posting things online, and here's a felony we all did together, and check it out on Facebook. That isn't, they simply don't know that it's that bad. And hazing is illegal in 44 states in the United States. I don't know, we're obviously listening to on a global basis here. Check your country or where you're at and see if there's laws against it. But really, it's protecting the students. And also, there's many kids in these adults programs, and kids and adults join these programs to really sometimes avoid being victims of bullies, learn how to stand up for themselves. You could have a bully at school, and we've all seen you can have a bully at work. Your boss could be a bully. You could be 40 years old, and you're in a relationship with your boss that's just like terrible, and you really feel like that person was probably a bully in grade school, been a bully their whole life, and now they're in a position to bully you as an adult. And learning to stand up for yourself is something I think jiu-jitsu helps with. But if you're wanting to not do the gauntlet and you're kind of forced to, you give in yet again, I think that's not helping you with fighting, learning how to fight a bully mentally. And I think that to see a kid go through the gauntlet is a bit heartbreaking for me. And you see that online sometimes, and it's kind of sad, especially if they don't want to. Some might get excited about it, but another thing that was surprising to me, the rule. So if, hey, Gary, I want to put you through the gauntlet, and Gary says, okay, just because Gary agrees to do this as really the victim of the gauntlet doesn't make it okay for me. It's still against the law. So Gary's consent to be in the gauntlet doesn't make what I'm doing, if I line up me and my buddies and we whip him, it's still a hazing, and it's still against the law, and in a lot of states it's still a felony. So I was surprised by that rule, Gary.
I didn't realize, till this article here about, illegal in 44 states. And Has there ever been? I mean, when you were doing research, did you find anything? Has there ever been any court cases where, you know, due to somebody being whipped or you know, anything like that has went to court, has went to adjudication?
I'm sure there has been. There's tons of stuff. I put links in the bottom of that article, which we'll put a link to that in the show notes, which is just go to bjjbrick.com. But there's actually lots of websites that are about hazing and kind of explain the rules and try to make it simplified. And I didn't go reading through individual court cases. I'm not a lawyer. Tim Sled, you know, he's got the law experience, but it was a bit much. But people think that this is a deep part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tradition, and from what I've gathered in the research, Chris Howder, which has been on the show, who was super nice and you know, really interesting to talk to. It looks like he might have been involved when this started back in the mid '90s. So however long ago that was, is that a rich tradition? Maybe not. I would like to talk to Chris and see if he still does this. I don't know if he does or not, but there's an article that talks about it, and it's really not that big of a tradition with us anyway. I think it's kind of similar, but even this is older. Picking a fight with another guy on the beach at Brazil, that's an old tradition in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That we need to leave behind, which we mostly have. You know, you don't see, I hope, I haven't gone to the beaches of Brazil yet, someday hopefully, but you don't see two guys out there grappling and trying to fight on the beach. You know, a tradition, maybe it was. We leave it behind. Yes, let's leave that behind. Just for legal reasons, probably some to leave the gauntlet behind as well.
Yeah, and you know, I always wonder though if it will ever be left behind, because there are some people who are really, really, really into you know, the gauntlet. You know, says it. You know, this is supposed to be a tough sport. It's going to build bonds with your teammates and everything. And I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily agree with it. Not necessarily. I don't agree with it at all. But I just wonder if it'll ever, you know, even with the hazing laws and you know, articles coming out about it, if it'll ever stop. I still seem like I see more places, you know, doing the gauntlet than not doing the gauntlet. But it was kind of neat seeing some of the emails we got of people in some of the schools. You can do the gauntlet, or you can you know, not do the gauntlet. You have your choice. And you know, some schools there's no choice. And you know, some people are adamant, you know, for hazing, and some people like yourself and myself, you know, are really we're anti-hazing, anti-belt whipping.
Yeah, if you're at a school where they do this, you really kind of owe it to your instructor to at least inform them. Even if you like this, even if you enjoy the gauntlet, you've done it. It was a positive experience for you. It might be a felony in your state, and you might be bragging about doing a felony. Imagine if there was a BJJ school that had a video on Facebook breaking into another school and like trashing the mats and graffiti all over the place, and they put that online. Like, that would be idiotic. That would be a terrible way to run your school as a business. And here we are doing a gauntlet, which is illegal in all but 6 states of the U.S., and we're posting it online for everybody to see. And another thing that the gauntlet does, I think most people do this as well, really enjoy seeing the student who comes in. They're kind of shy. They don't have that confidence built up yet. And over the course of 6 months to maybe 2 years, they become good at jiu-jitsu, and they get that confidence. And you see them rolling with people who are bigger and stronger than they are. And maybe they're a kid, they're rolling with an adult and doing pretty darn good. That's so great to see, and that's so motivating for us training on the mats. But I think a lot of times you see that person who doesn't have that confidence yet in themselves, and they see the gauntlet, they walk away. I don't want to do that. And that's really not a bad decision either, standing up for themselves. They see something they don't like, I don't want to do that, I'm done. That's them. I admire that, to stand up for themselves. But in reality, stick with jiu-jitsu. Just pass on the gauntlet, you know, if you can, or if your school has realized that it's probably not a good business practice, then I don't know. Gary, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, I've done that myself. I've been in a school before where they were whipping somebody for his birthday, you know, running the gauntlet, and I chose to sit out. And you know, I kind of got yelled at a little bit, like, "Hey, get in line! You know, I need to do this." And you know, it's just not me. I said I'm not going to take part in it. You know, and sorry, it's just It's just something I don't believe in. And I'm a little bit older and I'm confident in myself, but I could definitely see me at 21 years old or 18 years old. I probably wouldn't have had enough confidence to say no. I would have just followed the crowd and did what they did. And then, so I was glad that I, voiced my opinion and, sat out on it. It's just something I didn't feel comfortable doing.
Yeah. If you're not comfortable with it, and you need a little bit of help, email us. Also, check out the stuff by Tim Sled that's on the links there. He talks about it as well. He's willing to help you out. It's not a reason to quit jiu-jitsu. You can get through. There's no reason to do a gauntlet to prove that you're good at jiu-jitsu. At no part, if like in between rounds, we took our belt and whipped each other, and then we rolled some more, and this took a toll and affected the way we roll, this would be somewhat relevant to jiu-jitsu. But there's no part in jiu-jitsu do you get whipped with a belt. That's not what we're doing. At my academy, when you get promoted, you get thrown like a judo style throw, or maybe even just a takedown, by the belt above you. This is more relevant to what we're doing. It doesn't leave a mark. It's like doing a tiny bit of judo with half dozen to 20 other students as they throw you and you get back up. Remember the fall down 6, get up 8 or 7?
7, get up 8.
But fall down 7, get back 8. That's like the day at my the academy I'm at now at Fox Fitness. You're gonna fall down, you're gonna get back up. You're gonna fall down, and that's what you've been doing to get to where you're at. That is not, from what I can gather, former hazing at all. Also, if you want to roll, if you go through some like a shark thing, what they call it, you end up rolling for a long time with a lot of different people. That's jiu-jitsu. And unless you're able to not quit, if you're hey, I'm done. No, push yourself. Okay, I pushed myself already. Really, I'm done. I don't, you should, it's like anything. You have control of what you're doing. If you can't say, I'm done, I stop, then it goes a little too far. But really, if anybody is saying, I'm done, I'm having chest pains, this is too much, my arm hurts, whatever. If you say stop, they should stop. And
but I wonder if people would say stop, though, too.
It's tough, but
it's kind of in that same position if you would say it, if that's part of you're getting the next belt.
Yeah, but it's at least jiu-jitsu relative. They're literally doing jiu-jitsu at the time. They're getting pushed, which is a little bit of character development, unlike just walking in a line and getting whipped, which doesn't have anything to do with jiu-jitsu and is briefly painful, but it just moves on. So, if you're at a school that does whipping, we don't hate you. That's what you've been doing. It's what your instructor. If you are the instructor, it's what you've learned and it's people like what they're used to liking. It's hard to change, but you might at least read the article. Hate to see anybody get in trouble over this. I think in the long run, this is probably going to just fade away. You don't hear about people going out grappling at the beach, picking fights with rival schools. I think this will probably go that way in the future. So,
well, I'd like to pick Tim Sled's brain one more time too, because I was just reading. If you look into at the end of this article, Tim puts in Indiana Penal Code there, 35-42-2-2-5, and he's talking about hazing means forcing or requiring another person, with or without a consent, as a condition of association with a group or organization, to perform an act that creates substantial risk or bodily injury. And then he talks about bodily injury. That could be permanent disfigurement, unconsciousness, extreme pain, permanent or protracted loss or impairment of the function for bodily organs, or loss of fetus. Then I start thinking about, let's say even throwing somebody. What if somebody gets thrown and lands on their shoulder and destroys their AC joint? Then I'm like, is that considered hazing then too? I'm just kind of curious about that.
I think that would be considered just an accident. If like, Gary, I'm gonna throw you, I'm gonna bust up your shoulder, and that's what I'm trying to do. We got a problem with that. But if it's an accident, I think that's just unfortunate. That's part of the. That's still just risk we take.
It's kind of a condition with almost require another person. Hazing means forcing or requiring another person. Like, you're kind of required to do that.
Yeah.
With or without your consent, as a condition of association with a group I'm just curious. I wonder,
Yeah.
what would happen in that situation.
Maybe it is. I don't know, but
I don't know either.
I think
I don't.
like if you look at something and if you look at that, it looks like hazing. If you whipping people with a belt, it looks like hazing. If you made them drink a whole bunch of alcohol, that looks like hazing. If you made them stand in the corner,
that looks like hazing.
I don't know what that looks like, Gary. I've never seen that myself. But
we'll put a link to that in our show notes.
I didn't. There's some nice comments there below that carry on the conversation, and Tim Sled was one of those, and he definitely made. I didn't notice that, Gary, so that's good to see. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, but I was just kind of reading through that, and it's cool to get some different opinions. AA, is for it. David Gieselman is for it. And hey, it's great. I appreciate them sharing their opinions. We're all going to have our own opinions, and it's that's what's cool. We can talk about it civilly. Yeah,
but also, I mean, I'm trying to warn people here. If you're for it, but if somebody's a little hesitant going into it, and they get whipped, and they're showing the judge their back, the judge may not be for it. There's some gray area here. I've never heard of a school getting in trouble for this, but I could definitely see it happening, and I wouldn't want it to be yours.
But I wonder too, though, do people leave that school before their belt because they don't want to? I wonder if that's ever happened. People leave a school before getting a belt because they didn't want to get whipped and go to another school. I just wonder if that's ever happened there too.
I'm sure some have, and maybe some look at two different schools and like, these guys are a bunch of wimps. They don't whip each other. It's probably a factor of some people, but I don't know. It's one thing that might affect whether somebody goes to that school or to another school. But but
man, it's a great article. It just makes you think, but then it also brings awareness, because I just always thought about belt whipping as how do I say it? That's something I don't want to do. I never once thought it was hazing, and now reading some of these penal codes, I can see that it is, and there could be ramifications.
All right. Well, thanks for the compliment on the article, Gary. I wrote that, and I actually had my wife edit it, so it's not so many bad spellings and stuff.
That's why there's no mistakes.
and some of Gary's buddies that took a look at it as well. So,
well, see, my buddies aren't the smartest guys in the world, so they probably would have had some issues.
Yeah, those are smarter than me, Gary. That's all that I could ask for.
Yeah,
but we have a nice topic to move on to, my friend.
And it's not about eggs, as we've already told you.
So I think we should start this off by defining scrambling. Because as I was doing research on this, there's articles written on it, and some of them talk about like a scramble as, Gary's in my guard. We'll just set this situation up. I go armbar, he pulls out, I go omoplata, he rolls, I get on top and transition, very quickly to another armbar, he busts out, and immediately passes my guard. To me, that is not a scramble at all. That's a series of techniques happening like in a chain. A scramble is going to have a little bit more chaos. It's going to have a little bit more of it's more of a neutral thing where people are fighting for typically a position of dominance. How would you define scrambling, Gary?
Well, the crazy thing is, talking about scrambling, and I'm kind of with you, it's a time of chaos almost. I mean, it looks like chaos, but the participants in it are not. There's wild, frantic movement, and nobody has great control, and both are trying to get control. And what I thought was crazy is a week or two ago we had an article about the axe, sharpening the axe. This week we're talking about belt whipping, and we brought up Tim Sled. Tim Sled also talked about the axe beforehand, and I was doing a little stuff on the scrambling, a little research on scrambling, and there's not a lot out there, but what I saw was really great was an article by Tim Sled at Small Axe Jiu-Jitsu. Definitely check out this website, but Mental Revelations of the Progressing Grappler. And, he talks about the scramble, and he has a quote in there: "He who controls the scramble has the edge." But he's got a really great article that, I was kind of reading over just to get some help in this scrambling area.
I'm trying to figure out a good way to explain that it may not be chaotic for everybody in the scramble. And I think a good way would be to take a very good wrestler that knows jiu-jitsu, this placement purple belt, and a purple belt that doesn't have much wrestling background. And as, let's say, the wrestler purple belt is on his back, less like it, but let's say that's happening, and he scrambles up and is just trying to get back to his feet and really maybe try to get around the person or push them to their back or whatever. As this scramble starts to happen, it may be very chaotic for the guy who's used to passing the guard and not used to people getting up. But as it's more of a wrestling style scramble, the guy who has the wrestling experience is very familiar with what's going on. He knows he's not randomly pushing and pulling and tugging on things. He's trying to control a certain aspect of it. He might be trying to get out from underneath him. He might be doing a sprawl. I mean, it's not total chaos. I mean, it's just like when you started jiu-jitsu and it was total chaos for the first little while. People know what's going on, but it's less predictable maybe. I mean, there's a lot of openness. There's a lot less control of your opponent, and so that brings that big open door of possibilities to what could happen.
Yeah, but like when you first start, you might be a little more clueless during the scramble, but like I can always tell when my game is progressing, not getting a scramble situation, and you may not exactly know where the other person's going. He could come from a little different background, like you said, wrestling versus jiu-jitsu. But, it's that body awareness. You're feeling every little movement. If pressure goes from one area to another, you're feeling it and you know how to react to it. So it's I don't know, I guess it's just as time went on, I got better at reacting, knowing, just based off of pressure or based off of angles where that person was going and how to react based off of that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. As you're more familiar with the situation. So I think really you'll be put in the similar scrambles that you create time and time again because you're creating them from certain spots. So those will get more and more familiar for you. And as maybe you're in a good spot of good control and you don't want the scramble, you get put in scrambles you're not familiar with, and they may be a little more chaotic. But over the course of time, they should kind of blend together, and you should be more familiar with what you're trying to accomplish while this is happening. Gary,
definitely.
Who is the scramble good for?
It can be good for anybody. I mean, in all reality, some people, like you said, try to create scrambles. But I don't know. I think it could be good for anybody.
It could be if you have me in side control and you're sticking tight.
Yeah. Okay. If I'm on bottom side control and you're smashing me, if I can create a scramble, I'm on the bottom, it's definitely going to be good for me.
Yeah, and if I could not have a scramble at that point in time, I would much prefer.
You do not want a scramble. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's good for the person in the worst position.
Yeah.
In a negative position, being dominated.
So Gary and I, we have a little bit of like some rough notes here, but we really don't have anything too concrete down here. It's kind of like a scramble of stuff we have here together. But trying to think of the common positions to scramble from. I'm always reminded of trying when you escape, someone's getting you off their back or you're escaping back control. A lot of times there is a bit of a scramble to get top. If Gary is on my back and I'm working and actually get out, a lot of times Gary is quick enough and in the right place and expecting it, he gets on top of me, which is not good, but at least he doesn't have mount anymore. But sometimes if I could beat him to the punch, I'll end up getting in his guard, which is much better than having Gary on my back, or on top past. So that's one common, I think, situation to be scrambling from is to escape back control.
Yeah. Also, too, I think a lot of times, just escaping, submissions. Let's say you got top mount and you're going for an arm bar. And, as you go back for the arm bar, I react really quick. Let's say I go for a hitchhiker escape. As I'm coming around, you may end up, moving your hips out, going for an omoplata. At that point, then I have to, readjust from there. And we're just going on and on and on. I'm trying to escape. You're throwing another submission on till, one of us gets an advantage and, stops that scramble with a advantageous position. And that's where I see a lot of them off of an attempted submission.
I like all those techniques put together. And that, to me, that's, as an attacker, we're not scrambling at all. We're going through my series of techniques until I get one actually land. But as a defender, it just seems like I just keep hitting. If you don't know the next move and you're just getting out of another one, it definitely feels like a scramble. It's like, how do I get out of this thing?
Yeah, it's a scramble for that guy. He knows it's coming. He's defending, but the other guy is one step ahead and has another submission. I'm starting in a negative position, and I'm getting a so-called train run on me with submission after submission. I have to keep getting out of those submissions, and hopefully I can free my limb and then control the position and hopefully control the scramble. But by getting an angle.
You know who has the best scrambles, Gary? The guys in the old Western movies. They look at two cowboys and they'll end up on the ground on top of each other, laying flat, and they'll just roll and not roll like rolling, but they just go switch position, switch as they roll down the side of the mountain, and it's no order to that at all, no position, no base. That is chaos, and that's not realistic fighting, obviously, but that's a heck of a scramble.
I think that is realistic fighting for people who don't train fighting.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you think about when you first started, how bad your mount was. And you get two people, they're going to both have bad mounts. Somebody gets mount, goes to throw a punch, and, next thing you know, they get rolled, and it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah. So if we're looking at still who it's good for, if you're tired and you're not in a bad spot, I would make the effort to avoid the scramble. So, looking back at I'm escaping back, or the guy's escaping. I have Gary on. I've got Gary's back, and as he's escaping, if I can control, there's a certain leg, one of his legs, the correct one, as he's escaping, it makes it hard for him to actually turn and get his base. So that would help me avoid the scramble, which in this situation, it's always better to avoid that scramble. But if you're tired, scrambling takes a lot of work. I mean, it's more like two bulls butting heads than it is like a finesse thing.
I tell you get done with a 5-second scramble and you almost need a break. It's very, very exhausting. So if you're not in great shape and like you said, you're tired, you probably want to try to avoid that scramble.
And a lot of times the tired person or the less confident person will settle for the neutral position, which isn't necessarily the totally wrong thing to do. If you're scrambling with somebody and they always end up, winning the scramble, and they always end up getting like side control out of it, or a guillotine attempt, or Gary, a scramble with Gary is going to probably get me in a Kimura, and I'll be working out of that. If I could end up in a neutral position, I'll take it with Gary. If I could scramble and get my guard back, win. I'm happy with that. I would much rather scramble and get mount, but it's unlikely to happen. I know Gary. I know he's going to find my arm or my neck in a guillotine if I scramble much more than I've. It's like how far I want to push my luck in this scramble. And that's part of training with somebody versus competing with somebody, because when you compete, you don't know them as well. And I wouldn't know, hey, I need to back off from the scramble because Gary's gonna as I push this, he's probably gonna find my head sticking out there like a turtle and take it off.
That old Byron turtle head. But that's the thing too. I think sometimes I'm in the same boat. I'm happy to get out of a scramble in a neutral position, and I was talking about earlier how I was reading Tim Sled's article, and what I like about Tim is, let me just quote this. It's 2 sentences here. Scrambles can appear chaotic and without form, but the truth of the matter is, one can control a scramble when his or her mind is focused on the right principles. Controlling the scramble will lead to advantages within the match, both psychological and physiological. And I just like that Tim's really not just talking about, he's talking about trying to become a better grappler. We're going to end up in scramble positions, and why settle for neutral? Let's get to an advantageous position out of the scramble. And I had never really focused on that before, like, hey, let's focus on winning scrambles. And I mean, to be honest, I would be focused on coming out of neutral in scrambles. And my mindset, I don't think is totally right. I probably should focus on trying to win a scramble, just with, the right principles.
Yeah, and it does have a mental effect. I could line up 20 of my training partners and it probably pick out pretty accurate the odds that I would win a scramble or lose a scramble if we were both scrambling pretty hard and both pretty fresh. And I know there are some situations when I back down and I maybe could have won, but I'm probably going to lose this scramble. It's better to back down and get my guard back. And that's probably why, for me and a lot of jiu-jitsu players, our scrambling isn't as good as it could be, because we don't if you want to get better at scrambling, you got to push it. You got to be willing to risk getting guillotined a few more times a week. You got to risk getting, maybe armbarred or actually thrown or whatever. If you want to get better at scrambling, you're creating the scramble and you're not going to settle for neutral. You've got to push.
Yeah, you got to push it, and sometimes you are going to end up, like you said, your neck's going to get head out there. But the more and more you do it, and you're really pushing, time and time again, you are going to start, coming out on top.
Absolutely. I think that's one. I mean, doing them and then, because there is a mental effect, and let's say this happens. Gary has me in side control. I am fortunate enough to create a bit of a scramble, which for me is great because I'm in a bad spot and I'm fighting to get out of this bad spot. And 5-10 seconds ticks by, but maybe not that long. I don't know. And Gary ends up side control again. Like, that was a big scramble.
That is mental.
Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like you said, 5 or 10 seconds pass. Think about how tiring the scrambles are. And a lot of times it's really only like 3 or 4 seconds. And you're like, man, I just, wasted a quarter of my gas tank for 3 seconds. And it's crazy how exhausting that can be in that short of a time.
And you could have been almost there. I mean, it's so hard to.
That's the worst. When you're almost there, and then you do get pushed back into that, disadvantaged position.
Exactly. And then so if it happens again, like suddenly I'm scrambling against Gary and my own head because I've already told myself he's beat me twice. It's time to settle for if I can get my guard back, I'll do that. I don't care to try to get a dominant position. And it may not be the wrong thing to do. That might be the right thing to do. But like we're saying, if you want to get better at scrambling, you got to push. You got to be willing to take those growing pains. You got to be willing. Hey, I know Gary's probably going to win the scramble. I'm going to create it again. And okay, I got guillotined. That's okay. Now I know not to maybe scramble like that. Maybe I need to keep my shoulders shrugged a little bit more to hide my neck as I'm trying to come up, and maybe I need to fight hands. Maybe get better guillotine escapes. I don't know. Another thing I think for scrambling, you see a lot of times in jiu-jitsu, the person on top will get kind of lazy, and they'll end up with their feet flat, as in the top of their foot is flat on the mat. I do this. I mean, it's far more relaxing to have that than to have your toes on the mat as like a runner getting ready to take off. But just think if here's the example I use, and I think I can explain it through audio. if you're on your knees and your feet are flat, okay, and I just push you probably fall over to one side or the other, whatever. But if you are on your toes and the soles of your feet are pointing out from behind you, like you're getting ready to run, and I push you, you stand right up. It's not a hard thing to do. You pop right up to your feet. People who are good at scrambles, watch how they're on their toes. So if Gary's in my guard, he's on his toes, I put my foot in his chest, I push him away from me, he doesn't fall over. He stands right up. Maybe I get up for a scramble, but he doesn't get knocked down to create that scramble of both of us on our butts trying to get up at the same time. That's a big scramble. And so he gets a huge advantage by starting the scramble, not on his butt, but on his feet as I'm trying to get up and I'm already down. So I think being on your toes, especially when trying to pass, is a great way to either avoid scrambling or just once it happens to be a step ahead. Because Gary's mentioned that you want to be a step ahead in the scramble. Not trying to catch up to somebody.
Yeah, and I noticed that's one thing as I've got older. I'm not as fast as I used to be. Like, even if I am on my toes, I'm going to be slower than the younger guy I'm training with that has more speed, is probably more cardio than me, which my cardio is not the greatest. And so what I found out that, I have to use my brain a little bit more. I have to try to become more efficient with my moves. I have to drill a little bit more. I have to, be aware of all these positions and instead of trying to take big movements that take up more space, I'm trying to, turn and move tightly and with as, efficiently as possible where I, in a small area. It's, and I've noticed like as I've got slower, my technique has got better, which has helped me. I still have trouble winning scrambles, just because of my speed, but now with a little bit of technique, I'm staying neutral on scrambles, I think.
Gary and I both we like to guillotine. And I think that a lot of times when I'm scrambling with somebody and I wrap up their head, okay, it's usually a legitimate threat, but I'm not always going for the guillotine. But a lot of times they shut down. It's like I can't drive anymore. I got an arm on my neck. I got to defend the guillotine, and the scramble's over because they're now defending the guillotine, and I'm now either trying to finish guillotine or trying to finish up and pass their guard or whatever I'm doing next. But there are some techniques that kind of stop the scramble without necessarily ending the position fight. Can you think of any other examples, Gary?
Well, just going back to that first, like you said, if you can somehow grab some kind of offense out of that scramble, no matter where you're at, you start grabbing offense and you automatically, if I just keep pushing forward, like you said, my neck's going to probably get, choked. I'm going to get choked. So I'm going to have to, go back into defense mode. I'm going to have to stop the scramble. And, so that's just making me start thinking about like, hey, maybe one of these things I need to do is really focus on trying to, grab some type of offense out of that to, kind of stop the scramble and hopefully win based off of that.
So on the, we get addressed like a million techniques on this, but to stick with the guillotine, I think that's an easy one to understand. If Gary's guillotining me, I need to have, if I'm trying to pass his guard, there's a wrong direction to pass and a right direction to pass. I mean, so if my arm is if my head is under Gary's left arm, I need to be on the Gary's right side of his body with my body. So my head has somewhere to go. So for me, if you want to get better at scrambling and somebody wraps up your head in a guillotine, you need to keep pushing, and it might not work for you every time, and get over to the correct side of his body. And that's the difference between scrambling well and like trying to avoid the choke and like shutting down and not. And if the scramble's over, I'm getting out of this choke versus I'm not done fighting for this position. I'm going to take what may be a risk. Maybe it's not. Maybe your odds are better to fight through this and try to get on top. I don't know, statistically with any one person, it's probably different for everybody, but that the person who's willing to drive through it and to try to pass the guard right there and say, hey, you got my neck, I got to pass right now, they're going to, long run, have a better scramble.
Yeah. Well, that goes back, like I said, Tim Sled talks about left brain, right confusion. That's one of his principles to become a better scrambler. And basically he's just talking about, side to side, getting better to, switch directions, kind of like what you're talking about there. And he talks about different drills, the knee on belly, where you switch, knee from side to side and, knee cut transitions, switching side to side. And that's kind of goes by that. It's like you have to get good on, one guy jukes you, if you get juked to one side, you need to jump to the other side. So, so like you're saying there, you're just going to drill it. You're going to, as your head's getting taken and the guy starts falling back to get you in a guillotine from the guard, you then need to, pass by, jumping to the other side and establishing a tight side control. So, that'd probably be a good drill to do to get you better at that.
Yeah, and that's just one example of the guillotine. There are, I think, a lot of times leg lockers will have a pretty good advantage in a scramble, be able to find a attack on the leg.
You see some huge scrambles with leg lockers.
And it may seem chaotic to you, but it may seem like home to them. They might have these things set up to where, I'm trying and fighting hard to get out of this thing and rolling and kicking. And for him, he's like, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to the next one. This one's going to work. That one didn't work. It's like going through the chain of events for him. And so what seems like a scramble, what is a scramble for me, is just a series of events for him. And he knows where it's going to go. He's always going to be a step ahead. If you know where you're going next, if you could predict my escape and be there when I'm trying to do it, that's a huge advantage. And it really turns it from a scramble to a series of events.
Yeah. But, let's say you've got two very skilled people and you're the one who started with the submission and you're just going down the submission, and we're talking about I'm on defense and I'm defending them. But I kind of, even though you're a step ahead, I have to take my time and really not jump anything because I have to defend that submission first. But normally, if you're skilled and you've been put in these positions, you really are going to know where that guy's going. So, pretty soon you're like, okay, I know what he's going to probably chain next, and hopefully sooner or later you get to a position, because when I'm in the bottom, like you said, in the top it may be a series of events, but in the bottom I feel like I'm in a crazy scramble, and then I'm going to try to sooner or later just jump out of the submissions, and hopefully I can, get to a better position and at least create neutral, just by knowing where you're going to go, and then hopefully take advantage of some little, mistake or not being as tight through these, through all my defenses.
Yeah. I think of one common scramble that is almost always disappointing, and sometimes I fall for it, is when the person on the bottom in guard just just gets up and kind of runs at you. And it's like, oh man, I just gave up an easy sweep. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't on my toes. They literally just either put their foot in their chest and just pushed you back, or they got up quickly and suddenly you're on your. It wasn't like a real technical sweep, but they got me back. It was like that could have been a scramble if I was better, but I didn't. Something about it. I don't know when that happens to me, but sometimes it's like, darn it, I should have scrambled there. Another common scramble is the escaping the sweep. Let's say I'm trying to sweep Gary with a sweep as he's standing up, and he's kicking out of the sweep. He kicks and frees a leg. I'm no longer, in his direct path, underneath him with my guard. I'm next to him, kind of at a side angle. He's kicked out. He's out of place too. Do I get up and try to fight for top position? Do I get up with the leg and try to wrestle a little bit, or do I just go lay there on my back and wait for him to come back to me? I mean, those are. I could create a scramble from there pretty easily, Gary.
Yeah, let's take that scenario right there, and next thing you know, you start diving for my leg, grabbing a single leg, trying to, break down my structure on my leg. I'm trying to cross face, hip in and free my leg and control your back, and maybe at that point, you throw in a Granby roll, and next thing you know, it, like you said, it kind of looks chaotic to the person watching, a little untrained, but we're both rolling and defending and trying to come out on top of, a fast moving process.
Yeah, I think in a lot of these chaotic scrambles, a lot of times it's not that chaotic to people who are doing it, or at least one of the people who are, unless they're untrained and a little unskilled, and then it might actually be just total chaos. But at the high level, you see some crazy scrambles in the UFC or at the Worlds. People are doing things. The reason why it's continuing to scramble is because they're both countering. Once one defeats the other one at the scramble, it's over. I mean, they've got the position secured, or the submission. They're working on that already. But as long as the scramble continues, they both really know what's going on, or in the fight anyway. So I think we need to keep that in mind. That it's not just like jiu-jitsu. It's not total chaos. I mean, there's somebody who, hopefully, it's you, is aware of the position that you're working for and has an overall goal and a way to get to that goal. Gary, do you have any general tips to maybe win a scramble?
Well, I think one is, just trying to get an angle. If we're fighting head to head, it's going to be, probably the stronger person is going to win. And I'm just trying, like I said earlier, to keep my movement as efficient as possible, since I'm not very fast, but I'm just trying to come out, at an angle on you. And normally if I can get an angle, I'm probably going to be in a better position and hopefully be able to lock you down, And so that's one of, my big tip right there, is just try to win the position, try to instead of fighting head on, try to get a little bit of an angle.
Yeah, that's good. For me, you got to practice them, and you got to find what's common in them for you, and get in places that you're familiar with. If you only take down a single leg and you're scrambling, and you may manage to come up with a leg, perfect, but if you can't seem to grab that leg, you need to work on maybe a different takedown to make the scramble more efficient. Maybe you're really good about arm dragging, and so you could scramble the position where you could get a hold of their arm and get the arm drag. You're going to win more scrambles, and you're going to be in a place where you're more familiar, which will make a big advantage for you.
You think about that arm drag, just like we were talking about. Normally we're starting off facing each other. If I can just drag you a little bit, I've now opened up a part of your body. It's that's what's so cool about jiu-jitsu. It's if we fight head on, I'm going to lose to the stronger person. But the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is like we're looking at different angles. We're trying to make ourselves stronger and you weaker. Our opponent weaker by putting ourselves in advantageous positions or breaking down their musculoskeletal system. It's like one thing you always taught me, and this goes back to when we used to drill Ryan Hall stuff all the time. This was years ago. And, Ryan would talk about, as he had that guillotine on, or not the guillotine, triangle. This was back, I remember me and you used to drill this triangle DVD. That's how old we are. DVDs we were using. But he would always talk about just twisting the head. And basically just by doing that, it makes you weak. You're not as strong. And I find that now too all the time. Whenever I'm getting mount, I'm always pushing the guy's head to one side, trying to keep his, spine out of regular alignment. I'm trying to, a trick I learned from Rafael Lovato is, as I mount, I'm trying to move that arm up over the head and grabbing around the side of the head. Once the arm gets above, 45-degree angle, that person becomes weak. And it's just like the arm drag. We arm drag, we open up a whole side of that body. It's just like a nice big target for me, and then I need to stay tight. So you can't get their arm back, which you're going to try to do. And I just put myself in a better position. But in that same situation, I got to be prepared because I can get re-arm drag from that position. So depending on what your opponent knows, you have to be prepared for everything. You have to drill these things so it just becomes normal in your mind. Normally in your mind's just going to react because you've done this so many times.
Good advice there, Gary. I'm trying to think of other tips to win a scramble. I would say look at what submissions are good at ending scrambles. And for, I think I know Gary's, we mentioned it before, a guillotine. And Gary's got Kimura that he's able to a lot of times lock up during a scramble. But for me, guillotine has won more scrambles for me probably than any other technique. And people tend to just defend that. And so if you maybe work on your guillotine attack, you could do that from the guard. If you have a good guillotine from the guard, you'll have a good guillotine while you're scrambling. Wrap up their head, the same pressure, the same reaction a lot of times. They'll stop pushing forward and they'll back off the scramble, and you'll be able to win the positional fight and either keep the guillotine or move on from there. But look for find that BJJ brick. Find that one or two techniques that you could do during a scramble that would give you the advantage. It might be a single leg. It might be a double leg. It might be a guillotine. You'll go down for a footlock attack. It could be any number of things. Or try to get the technique that you really like to be applicable during the scramble. Some of these will be harder to do. If your best thing is cross collar choke from mount, that's going to be hard to implement during a scramble. But
well, you're going to have to get an advantageous position and put him on his back, and then you can go there. Yeah.
But speaking briefly about finishing chokes with a scramble, look at the advanced divisions. People getting tapped by a rear naked choke. Surely they know how to defend that. But what's happening as the person's taking their back, as the scramble's happening during the transition, they're under the neck. Yeah. So, like me, I get the back. Oh, yay, I got the back. Now I'm going to try to choke. Okay, I'm going to step behind the game. I should be trying to sink in underneath the chin as I'm securing the back. That's the difference between great grapplers and average ones like myself, Gary.
I see a lot of darces happen during scrambles. Somebody's on their back. They may be a top guy may be floating side to side. They're, or they just passed and the person starts shrimping and turning their side, and all of a sudden that darce comes open. I see that happen a lot. So, like you said, those high-level people, they don't just get position and then, okay, now it's time to go for the choke. It happens with all their movements. All their movements, they're looking, as one of our previous guests said, Brian Marvin, always be choking, ABC. So, always looking for it.
Yeah. And we always mention, if you're new to BJJ, we got the audiobook. We try to help you out your first year. If you're in your first year, first month, or first, not much experience on the mat, you may not even be in many scrambles because you have to, either earn a dominant position to get somebody to scramble from, or B, be in that bad spot and earn the scramble to try to escape. So both those things one of those needs to happen in order for the scramble. So if you never earn a dominant position, you're always on defense and you can't create the scramble to begin with, then there's no scramble. And if, I think I said that backwards. If you're never in a good spot like mount, you're never going to have to make a scramble from your mount, or do some wild escape. If you're never, if you're always in the bad spot and never able to create the distance in order to start a scramble, well, then you're also not going to scramble from there either. So, scrambling is really often between two competitive people. I mean, there's always that overlap of where people's techniques match up and somebody's better at this, better at that, but they overlap here. That's when you're going to see the scramble a lot of times.
Yep. And, just from talking about scrambles here, I realized that I've been having a little bit of trouble escaping side mount, which kind of crazy. I used to be very, very good at escaping side mount. I'd let people pass, all the time just so I could escape it. And I think now I'm just becoming, too lazy almost. And just talking about this made me realize I need to start working and trying to create a scramble from that position. And I can tell you that's one of my goals here for the next couple months. I'm going to work on creating scrambles. And it wasn't a goal I had up until we just started talking about this 30 minutes ago. I'm going to start working on creating more scrambles when I'm in bad positions and fighting to create the scramble instead of just saying, hey, I'm just going to sit here and hopefully that guy makes a mistake, and I'll get a better position. Let's put myself out of my comfort zone a little bit and, put myself into a scramble, and, I'll get tired, but I'm going to get better. So that's going to be something I'm going to work on. Thanks to just our little talk right here.
And maybe somebody else has picked up something that they can work on based on this. I'm always a fan of that, Gary. If you're in a bad spot and you can create a scramble, that's better. You occasionally hear the coaching advice, you got to let him go for the armbar and then you work your escape.
Yeah.
Or you got to let him go for the choke and you're going to get out after that. But it's far better to escape the scramble or to create the scramble and try to get a neutral position, or if you're lucky, a dominant position. But really, Gary, if you scramble from side control to guard, that's pretty good.
I'll take it. I'll take it as long as, I've been getting stuck in side control for a little longer than I want to. So, I'm realistic. I look at baby steps. I mean, let's start my scrambles first and back up and guard or something, or, in a neutral position. But I'm not going to quit there. Then I'm going to start working on, creating pressure and getting a little bit better angles and trying to end up in advantageous positions. So, it's going to be a process, but I'm going to work on it and get better.
Gary, to me, Gary has a great side control escape. He has an underhook so quickly. I mean, before I could even secure side control, he's underhooking and he's out. So I don't know I think he's being a little humble here, complaining about his side control escapes. But to me, the underhook creates a great scramble. I escape with my, without an underhook, I escape kind of with my forearm framing and I turn in and escape that way. I think the underhook is the better play to create a scramble. Would you agree with that, Gary?
I think it's more to create a scramble, but people have now become wise to my underhook, or finding ways to defeat it. And so it's funny, you were talking about framing, and I lack on my framing. That's exactly what's been going through my head this whole time. I need to go back to old school framing. I'm relying on a one-trick pony, which, there's nothing wrong with my underhook. It's works great in situations. But I need a plan B for situations where my underhook, has been nullified. So that's kind of, where I was going from that. If you roll with a lot of people at the same time, they start knowing your game. And I've been having trouble. I used to think side control escape was one of my best, and here lately I've been thinking I need to go back and work on it. I've kind of rested on my laurels, and people have caught up and figured out how to defeat it. So now I need to, go back to some of the basics, get a better frame, and, figure out different things from there.
Gary,
better hip movement.
I feel bad I should have told you about it, but when you went on vacation, I taught how to defeat Gary's underhook class. And we brought in the best instructors from across the country, and it was awesome. And you're now seeing the results of that.
Well, I was going to say, it sure feels like it.
But
note to self: never go on vacation again.
Take me with you, Gary.
Yep. Actually, I'll never miss a vacation.
So, any other comments or thoughts about scrambling, Gary? We've kind of wrapped up what we have today.
I think we've wrapped up everything we've had today. If any of our listeners there have any questions or comments, definitely send them to us at bjjbrick@gmail.com or post it on our Facebook page, and we'd love to talk about it. But, I know we already did our article of the week too, but definitely check out Small Axe BJJ.
Oh, yeah.
There's an article, if you go into the news there, Mental Revelations of the Progressing Grappler. And just a great one by Tim Sled, who's always a fan of the show and has been on here numerous times. And we really appreciate all he's done for us.
Gary, we don't know if he's a fan of the show, but we're definitely a fan of his.
Yeah. Oh, he's probably a fan of 2 episodes.
But I'll put a link to that in the show notes where it'll be easy for you to find, and definitely check it out. I still got to read that. I haven't checked that one out yet, Gary. But
yeah, see, I'm an overachiever.
Right, that's why you're helping me out here today, Gary. You're always pulling this cart, pulling the brick.
Pulling the brick.
So I'd like to thank our guests, Gary, and Tim Sled's article, which will be links to the show notes, which I got to read that.
Yep. Well, the bad thing is I couldn't think up my own stuff, so I had to plagiarize from Tim Sled.
Well, it's not, Gary, you gave him credit, man. I mean, you just borrowed information from a great source.
Well, I'm going to give him credit because he's going to choke me out.
And then, there you go. You don't need that to happen anymore. So, Gary, here we go. A lot of times we'll have a segment we call Mat Tales, where people will send in like the crazy stories that happen on the mat or off the mat, but relevant to the jiu-jitsu journey, and just some great stories. And check out last week, we had a Mat Tales where I don't want to tell you if you haven't heard it, but it had involved the mouthpiece, and it was pretty sad.
Pretty disgusting.
If you've got a story that you want to share with the community and think it would be entertaining, send it to bjjbrick@gmail.com, and we'll turn it into a Mat Tales episode. Put it to some nice music and make it all dramatic. But because we don't have one, we put the spotlight on Gary for our entertainment this week. So Gary is trying to work on this audiobook, but it's weird because he doesn't even know the title of this audiobook yet. But he'll have to develop some content on the spot here. Gary, your audiobook this week, my friend, is called The Scramble, What Fighters Eat for Breakfast. And it's a bit different, is that right, than most of your books? Or what do you got going on over there?
Wait, you cut out a second. Can you tell me the name of the title again?
The Scramble, What Fighters Eat for Breakfast.
Okay, perfect. I missed what fighters. Okay. So, hey, this is one of my, I personally think this is probably going to be in the New York Times bestseller for audiobooks, if there is even a New York Times bestseller for audiobooks. And as you can see, that's my way of stalling so I can think of what I'm going to talk about.
Is this more of a diet book, or what's this about? How's this helping out the fighters that you're trying to sell this book to?
Oh, it's a diet book. They don't call me they say, my diet's second best behind the Dulce diet. So, but my big thing is it's all about eggs. What better way to, repair your body through all the strong beatdowns you're going to get?
Yep, over easy eggs, Gary, I'm assuming?
No. We're going scramble. I mean, because you think about it, what's a great protein source?
Chicken.
Eggs, right?
Yeah, chicken is good. Some beef, some fish.
Yeah, but eggs good.
Oh, eggs, yes. I forgot about eggs.
What about milk? Is milk a decent protein source?
Not bad.
Yeah, so, most people scramble eggs with milk. So you're not just getting eggs, you're also getting milk into your eggs. So, it's kind of like a double dose. It's kind of like, getting a guillotine and an armbar or a Kimura at the same time, a double dose. So it's just going to make you a better fighter, by eating properly. And, what do you always want to have with your eggs, Byron?
Eggshell. A little bit of eggshell in there, Gary.
No, we want to make sure we don't get any eggshells, but some toast. We're going to put a little bit of toast in there. And, we want to sprinkle some cheese on there and peppers. The dark green peppers are, great, full of antioxidants, will keep you on the mat. So, it's just going to be great nutrition advice from myself, who has no nutrition background.
Gary, I'm a little
which is the type of guy you want.
Yeah.
Advice.
A little bit surprised on the recommendation of toast. I mean, you will frequently say, once you're stuck in this, this triangle, you're toast. You're done. And you also say you are what you eat. So, what do you recommend? Why are you recommending toast for people if they are what they eat?
Well, I was thinking of it the other way. Since I'm eating a lot of toast, I'm going to put people in. I'm going to toast people. I'm going to burn them. I'm going to put them in, some toastable situations.
Toastable situations.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So, when I get you in a triangle of strangulation, I mean that's a toastable situation, and you are toast.
There we go. Makes sense. It's going to be an interesting book, I think.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think this might be one of my worst books ever, but who knows? Could be a hit.
When is the last time? Because you're coming out of this book, and I'm probably the only person to interview about this, so I got to hit you with the hard question.
The last book I really wrote. It wasn't an audio book, but it must have been in like kindergarten or first grade. I wrote a book about Hank Aaron, and I actually still have that book. And,
nice.
I was proud of that. And my brother and sister laugh at me all the time when the family's together and somebody pulls that book out.
I like that, Gary. That's a good story. Gary, you got a little book you made as a kid, and it's stuck around.
I'm going to try to find it. If I can, I'll take a picture of it. We'll put it on the Facebook.
Absolutely. And then you have to write a little tiny paragraph about how it relates to jiu-jitsu, Gary. I'm sure you can do it. You've tied scrambling eggs into jiu-jitsu somehow. You could tie in this little book you made as a child, and this would be Gary's first article on our website.
Yeah, maybe somebody will actually buy it. Actually, I think it's only half a book now because if I remember right, my dog ate, and this is true. Yeah, like the bottom half of it is shredded, which not toasted, shredded. So I'm thinking maybe my dog, Augie Doggy, which would have been the dog at that point. I think maybe he ate the bottom half of it. So that means I probably spilled toast on it or something.
Well, I'm excited to see the book, and Gary, you got to get this up soon. Also, we can post it on our Facebook page. That way you don't have to write your article, but I'm going to hold you to an article. I think this will be fun. It could be a one paragraph long, and you could make one of your buddies at work do it.
Hey, I got some IT professionals at work that can do it for me.
You can relate anything to jiu-jitsu. I know you could write a book, relate a book you written as a kid about Hank Aaron to jiu-jitsu, your passion for the sport, and how kids are passionate about jiu-jitsu, maybe. I don't know. But that'll be in the future. So I'm looking forward to that, Gary.
Oh, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it also.
Speaking about our Facebook page, go ahead and find us on there and like us. We are also on Instagram, Twitter, and many other social media outlets, including YouTube. We're trying to pick up that a little bit in the next couple of weeks here, get more stuff on the YouTube channel. So that'll be great for everybody.
Yep. Also on social media, check out our link to Patreon. Patreon's a website for content producers, and basically it's a way to support the show, a way to show support to the BJJ Brick podcast. Nothing that we do, costs a little bit of money, and we like to at least try to break even. So Patreon, basically, you can support the show for $1 a show, $2 a show, $3 a show. There's different levels, and it kind of explains that. And we do have 4 people, in our top level there. So definitely check that out. And if you do have a little bit extra money or want to support us, we'd appreciate everything you could do.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up, Gary. I want to encourage everybody to write a Matt Tails story and send it to us. If everybody thinks about it, maybe 1 or 2 people will actually do that and send it to bjjbrick@gmail.com. I want also, if you enjoyed the show, if you maybe picked up a tip or 2 about scrambling, tell your friend about this. Maybe they will as well. If you're both better scramblers, it's going to help you both in the long run. So share this with a friend via social media or face-to-face, whatever is better or easier for you to do. So we appreciate that a ton.
Yep, and also too, if you happen to be traveling and you're having to come through Wichita, Kansas, let us know. Send us an email, bjjbrick@gmail.com. Send us a private message on our Facebook page. We'd love to get on the mats together and roll, and maybe create a couple scrambles.
I want you to scramble your eggs and stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to toast.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.